So today on Systemize Your Success, I'm joined by Mike Corrandini. Mike is a sought-after startup mentor and consultant, and for the past 20 years, he's dedicated his life to the art of entrepreneurship. He successfully launched numerous seven-figure businesses and has helped over 2,000 entrepreneurs develop, fund, and grow their businesses. We dig deep into JV partnerships, into the value of masterminds, into pre-selling to fund your product and course development, into the value of targeted market research, the importance of knowing what your client wants, and also why the lack of money shouldn't be a factor when deciding to launch a new product. All that and more in this fantastic episode. So the question is this: how do entrepreneurs like us who don't have an endless supply of cash, how do we leverage the best apps, virtual assistants, automation tools, and systems to scale our businesses, increase our profits, and have more time to do what we love to do each day? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name's Dr. Steve Day, and this is Systemize Your Success. Hi, Mike. Thank you very much indeed for coming along today and having a chat with us. Really nice to have you all the way over from Texas. Is that right?
That's right, Steve. Thank you. And very excited to be here.
Cool. So I'm also been really excited about this interview since we've had it booked in. What you do fascinates me. And I think it's going to be of real value to anyone who is thinking of starting a business, if you've not already, or you're in a business and you're looking to grow it or scale it, or trying to just prevent all the overwhelm that comes along with being a business owner. And I think, one of my big things is about outsourcing. And what I love of the idea of what you do is it's not just outsourcing a bit of here and a bit of there. This is like really a partnership about outsourcing a huge chunk of the work to really make the business a massive success. So do you want to just fill in the gaps between what I've summarized there? Now, what is it that you do and how do you help businesses?
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. So we help entrepreneurs launch or grow their businesses. We typically focus on physical products, mobile apps. However, we also help with service type businesses, brick and mortar, even digital products. The concepts and philosophies apply to all of them. But to your point and to your theme of outsourcing, we advocate that big time. One of the things that I recognize regularly is that existing entrepreneurs, they hit these glass ceilings, these plateaus, if you will, and they usually try to get past them on their own when they could outsource and maybe borrow the knowledge, borrow the experience from someone like yourself or myself that can help them get to that next level in their business.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's use a real life example, and I just warn you, I might do this before we got on air, and that is, let's look at my business, for example. I'm at a position in my business, I've been going for a few years, I've got loads of great ideas for stuff, but I don't really have the resources to do just everything, and probably need some more expertise to come in. So I guess I could go out, I could source a product developer, I could source a top marketing agent, bring them all in. There's a time element to that. There's a risk element. There's a cost element, definitely. And actually just attracting those sort of like the high level people that you need is challenging as a small business owner without a massive back record, so to speak. So looking at it from the perspective of me, if I had we have a recruit right system. So we have a system that we a course and a program and a system that we help people that helps people to find the right people. And I know that in theory could be turned into a digital product and into an app or a similar sort of web-based product. So if we looked at it from that point of view, because I think when I first came across you, I was thinking, do you just joint venture with people like for the whole business? Is this like a full 50-50 or whatever? Let's not talk percentage splits here, but is it a full on your part of the business, or is it part of a product? And how does that distinction work, and how would that work in that example of the recruit right system?
Yeah, so many good points there, Steve. Let me start working on those with you. So first of all, the joint venture approach that we take with entrepreneurs, what I discovered is that there's a lot of services out there that an entrepreneur, a business owner can go and they can secure for their business. And what I found is that most of them, if given the choice, would rather have somebody with a vested interest that was helping them, because if that vested interest exists, you can usually expect a more intimate, fulfilling relationship with that JV partner. And so what we call it is a done with you joint venture. And done with you essentially means we're going to roll up our sleeves. We're going to actually help you create and launch or grow your business and get it to where you want it to go. And the difference with having a service company just do everything for you, in contrast to that, is that a lot of times, and I've done that model, by the way, several years ago, Steve, and what happened was at the end, the entrepreneur really didn't know how to run with the ball, right? The business owner wasn't really equipped to take what you bolted onto their business and really run with it. And so we went from a done for you model to a done with you model, because doing it with a business owner, we learned, was much more valuable and drove the bottom line much more sustainable than just during our initial engagement.
Yeah, I think that is something that really resonates with me, because what we teach on Systems for Outsourcing is we give people the tools and the knowledge and the expertise and the systems to run their own business, to systemize their own business, to hire their own staff, not come in, help them with a few problems and then walk away and let them sort of figure out for themselves. And I've, like you, I'll give an example again, just to really make this point of how much I agree with you. I've had marketing people in the past who I've paid a monthly fee to do marketing for me, to do stuff. They've walked away and I'm be like, well, I'm back to zero again because there's nothing happening now. Whereas the company I'm working with now to help with the marketing, I've already discussed with them on day one, even though this initial project is a project-based thing, I said, look, what's the long term? What's your game plan? And they said, well, actually, we don't make a lot of money up front. Our game plan is we'll make you profitable, then you'll want to keep working with us, and then we'll want a percentage. And I said, right, that's the company I want to hire. So even though the initial engagement has been a project, I actually asked them, do you want a percentage of my company in some way, shape or form? And they said, yes. And I said, that's the company I want, because you know that they're in it for the long term. So yeah, 100%.
Then the challenge is, Dave, the challenge is, Steve, as you know, most people want push button profits. They want a magic pill, they don't want to work for it. And I understand the appeal with having somebody do everything for you, but you need to learn how to fish, as we say. The analogy, if you give a man a fish, he starves tomorrow. But if you teach a man to fish, then he can ultimately grow his business for a lifetime. And that's the whole idea. I know that you advocate too, Steve, is, let's get some systems in place so that you don't need me forever looking over your shoulder, right? Once you get that framework really ironed out and solid, you can run with the baton. And of course, we can be here for additional advice. But something you brought up a moment ago, as far as you expanding your verticals. And again, I can't wait to learn more about your programs, because I need them, Steve, just as badly as most of my clients need them too. I mean, every entrepreneur that I know hits the bottleneck because we wear hats up to the ceiling, right? It's just something that we all kind of fall into. And so for somebody like you that might be expanding into different hiring systems or apps that are related to that, the way the Product Mentors model could help you, or how it would work with your type of business, is we'd want to find the best product market fit before you actually finished or even created that hiring curriculum or that hiring course. And the reason is a lot of entrepreneurs will make something and then hope and pray that it sells, right? Please download my app. Please buy my widget. And in some cases, there's a lot of existing business owners out there that might have mediocre sales, right? They have some traction, they have revenue coming in, but something's just not perfectly aligned. And in that case, again, you can always go back and challenge your assumptions that we as entrepreneurs have and see if there might be a better product market fit out there where you could even take an existing system like your systems and outsourcing and maybe even rebrand it or kind of redo it for a different industry or a different niche and essentially take what you already have, but repurpose it so that somebody else or another group realizes the immense value that they can get from it. And so, being that a lot of your audience has an existing business, that's what I would challenge you to think about today is how much of your sales or lack thereof could be related to your product not fitting the market's needs as perfectly as they might be able to. And the way that we accomplish that, of course, sales is the ultimate litmus test, right? If your product or app or your course is selling, then you probably found a good sweet spot. But again, most people out there, as they don't have that sweet spot figured out, right? Most entrepreneurs are always seeking that holy grail, as Steve, and that perfect product market fit. And so one suggestion or takeaway that I'd like to offer everybody is to run consumer surveys. And again, if you have a B2B business, you can run business surveys. It's the same idea. One of my favorite platforms is SurveyMonkey, and the reason is twofold. One, you don't need to go out to Starbucks or stand in front of Target and try to hit up random people. And especially with these weird COVID times, you may not want to go interface with people perhaps as well. But SurveyMonkey has audiences with demographic selections built in. So if you have a program or a course, let's say for new mothers, for example, you can get your survey just in front of females and maybe within the age group 25 to 40 perhaps that are most likely to be giving birth. So by doing this though, and by spending a little money up front, you can get some open-ended questions answered and the light bulbs start going off. And that's the secret with the surveys is it's not just multiple choice. It's not just yes and no. You want to ask questions like, under what condition would you buy my course? At what price point would you buy my purple widget? What annually would you pay for my app? Right? And it's those open-ended questions that really give us as entrepreneurs the guidance that oftentimes we're missing, right? We're inside of our own heads. Hopefully you have a mastermind group. I'm sure you do. And if you don't, and you're listening, you definitely need to collaborate and feed off people, because as a silo, as one person, it doesn't matter how great of an entrepreneur or how intelligent we are, you're just not going to have the same level of creativity or market penetration as if you collaborate, whether that's with other entrepreneurs or whether that's with surveys and getting direct feedback from potential customers. So I know this sounds like a simple concept, Steve, but believe it or not, it's the number one reason that I find that entrepreneurs fail. Again, even if they have a business going, because a lot of businesses don't make it, as it's because they never found the product market fit. One of the biggest things.
Yeah, I think that's absolute gold advice. And just to sort of reiterate it from personal experience, the first course I ever launched by asking people what challenge they were having in creating systems, in being overwhelmed in their business. And then I sold that course based on the answers I got to those questions, and then created it. Because then you knew what to include in the course, you knew there was a demand for it, you knew people were willing to pay for it, and then I had to get on and actually create it. And, I read that in a book by Pat Flynn called Will It Fly? And just basically read that book and just wing it, or just give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? So yeah, 100%. And And again, this isn't, like you say, it's not just for when you're getting started. So right now, literally today or tomorrow at the very latest, if depending on how long the interview goes, I'll be sending out an ask survey or an ask campaign to my existing audience, to my existing Facebook group, my existing clients, saying, I'm about to do a new training. I've already outlined the framework for it, but I want to make sure I'm hitting all the hotspots. I want to make sure I answer all your questions. So could you answer this quick survey and let me know what you want me to teach you on this course, which you'll get for free if you complete the survey. So that's the way we're using that same principle. And so, yeah, it's super powerful. And I can't agree more. So I just wanted to sort of concrete that and say, yeah, 100% behind that.
That's beautiful, Steve. And I love to hear that you're using it. I haven't heard of that book, but I'm going to check it out now. The Lean Startup, it was kind of my Bible when it came to this new model. And the Lean Startup was about a software company in Silicon Valley. And all these other software companies would build this, heavy software, all this code, who knows how many millions of lines of code. And then nobody would buy their software. And, this tech entrepreneur figured out that you can simulate a software before building it and get people involved, to your point, to make it exactly how they want it. Because really, customer is king, one of my favorite mantras. And what that means to me is it doesn't matter what the entrepreneur wants, right? We may want our course to have this, or we may want our new electric toothbrush to have that, but it doesn't matter what you want or what we want. And, being flexible as an entrepreneur is one of the other things that I really want to bestow upon everyone. You have to be willing to pivot. You have to be willing to take hard right turns. I mean, YouTube, for example, started as an online dating site before they became the video behemoth that they are. And you look at Twitter and all these PayPal, all these other companies, none of them started the way that they ended up. And I don't think entrepreneurs often realize this, and business owners, that, hey, my initial nucleus of an idea, as much as I was passionate about it, we get this passion blindness at times, that's not the way most companies end up. Rarely is it based on the original vision. So you always need to be willing to adapt. It's not the biggest, baddest, strongest that survive. It's those that adapt, right? You look at Blockbusters and Kodaks and all these giant companies, those aren't the ones that make it. It's adaptation in my mind.
Yeah. Totally agree. I love it. So I think, again, it's just very valuable nuggets of information and lessons that we should all heed, but probably most of us will end up ignoring because, like you say, you get passion blindness. And that's where actually having someone like yourself, or like you mentioned masterminds before, which I've run my own mastermind. I have a paid for mastermind that I pay to be in. I have a mastermind which I run with peers, and I also have a paid for mastermind that I get paid to run. And all of them I get massive value from just sharing ideas and having those someone else looking in and saying, you know what, Steve, nah, that's a really bad idea, and that sort of that outsider looking in who has no vested interest, or even with a vested interest, but a fresh pair of eyes. I think for me, like thinking about working with someone like yourself, and I'm sure lots of other people listening to this will be thinking the same sort of thing, is, I've been doing this business now for nearly 4 years. And yeah, I've got all these other people like maybe giving me advice or bouncing ideas off, but actually no one else has a vested interest in this. So they can give me all the good advice that they want, but it's not going to affect their bottom lines. And so the attractiveness to me, and a little bit like we were saying before about the marketing company, where I wanted them to want to share. I wanted them to take a profit share because I want them to have that desire and their passion to perform beyond the norm and to have a continuum in that. And that's what really attracts me. And what you were just talking about then is when you get someone like yourself on board, it is a fresh pair of eyes. But not only that, it's a team. And you guys have done it before. You've not done it once or twice, or it's not, you've done it many, many times before. And I think that could be a massively valuable thing at the right time in a business.
I think you make a great point. Having the right team, Steve, whether it's your team or our team, is key. But what's behind that team, and again, to your whole program, is a system, right? We don't just launch new businesses or grow new businesses haphazardly, right? There's a specific protocol that we follow, and there's a certain order that we do things in so that we're not increasing our risk. We're actually doing the opposite. We're reducing our risk, and we're also reducing our time, and we're also reducing the capital. And if you can reduce your risk, your time, and your capital, again, why wouldn't you want to follow a system? Whether it was a system like yours to make your business more on autopilot and to work for you instead of you working for it, or our system to get your product or your business to market or growth in the least risky, least expensive way possible. And kind of the crux of how we do that is with pre-sales. And a lot of people know about pre-sales, whether it's an iPhone they've pre-ordered, or, a video game, or even like Tesla pre-sells their cars and trucks now. So we're all kind of familiar with this strategy, but you don't need to be a Fortune 500 or a multinational conglomerate to use it. Entrepreneurs and business owners can use it for a new product. Like if you wanted to add a new vertical to your existing business, you wanted to add a new service, a new course, anything, you can have your customer finance you to engineer it, to develop it, or to create it, whatever is applicable for it. And so that's what I'd really like to challenge your audience to think about, is a lot of times we're restricted by money, by capital as entrepreneurs. If only I had $1 million, I could do this, right? And we kind of have these limiting beliefs. And whenever I have a limiting belief, I don't know about you, Steve, but that's when my creative genius comes out. It's like, how do I do more with less, right? Not the status quo. And if you think that money is holding you back right now, for anyone listening or watching, just realize that lack of money is rarely a lack of resources. It's usually a lack of being resourceful. And one of the best ways I found to be resourceful is to let the customer finance you. We're doing some new cryptocurrency projects right now too. And so we're adapting our model to these partners of ours that want to issue these new types of crypto coins. And so we're even evolving our model to help them, because I don't want them to spend 50 grand to make a new blockchain, right? We're reverse engineering it and allowing these coins to be distributed before they go on the spot market, so that we have no development costs. So if there's a will, there's a way. There's always a creative way to let your customers help your growth or your initial launch if you have the system.
Yeah, brilliant advice again. And I think I may have mentioned this before, but on a very small scale, that's how I launched Systems for Outsourcing. I had 6 paying customers on my first ever launch, but it was enough to convince me it was a good idea to worth a few weeks' work. And then the results of those clients, when they were successful by using the course and the successes they had, that inspired me to change the direction of my life, to dedicate everything I did to doing what I do today. So it doesn't need to be a big thing, like you say, like whatever the big Fortune 500 companies are doing. And there's a great example of a company called Groove Apps. So they have a Groove Funnels, Groove Webinar. It's basically a course delivery platform, funnel building software. And they started out by basically offering a very small part of their package of apps, but with a lifetime plan that you pay for the apps in the promise that one day they're going to create the rest of them. 2 years in, they're still creating the ones that I was interested in, and they haven't done it yet. But I don't want to badmouth any company. They do seem to be doing well. But that model, I guess, has financed all of their development costs. And so it's been for them a total no-brainer. Like, why wouldn't you do that? And these are, they've got their heads on, the company owners are very successful in other businesses. So I've done it. Big companies do it. this medium-sized company does it. You're saying it's the right thing to do. I think it probably is.
Yeah, I think conceptually you nailed it when you use the exact same strategy, Steve. I think like anything, like I want more free time. I was looking at your website last night. I want more free time as an entrepreneur. You know, just like entrepreneurs watching and listening, they want the customer to finance their growth or their launch. So we know entrepreneurs and business owners need these things. What's going to make the difference is your execution, right? It's not enough to want more free time or to want your customers to finance you. You have to execute. It all comes down to execution. And so then your next question is, do I do trial and error? And do I try to figure out everything Steve has banged his head on his desk to figure out, or Mike, for example, or do I follow a system, right? Do I do something that's already been proven and time tested and refined? And again, to me, it's a no-brainer. To you, it's a no-brainer. Hopefully for everybody else, they're starting to see why make it harder on yourself than you need to make it, right? Plug in with the right systems for your own benefit, for your family's benefit.
Yeah, I think, again, very good advice, and advice I have adhered to for many years. I think that if you're a coach, which I am a coach, if you don't have a coach, then you're selling something you don't believe in. So I've always had coaches. I've always had partnerships for, whether it be marketing, strategy, systems, or potential JV with yourself in a product that may or may not happen in the future. But those are the sorts of ideas. To me, it's like, it's a no-brainer. And I think that that if people can take away one thing from today, if you don't currently have a coach, I'm not saying you have to come to myself or Mike, but find yourself a coach at the level you're at now who has already walked the path that you're trying to get to in the next level of your business, and listen to them and follow their footsteps. Because I've learned stuff the hard way too many times, and learned that following someone else's mistake or letting someone else make the mistakes first is a wise decision. Mike, I'm conscious of time, and I do like to ask a few signature questions before we finish. I've not prepared you for these, unfortunately. That's my bad. I should have sent this over previously, but hopefully they're not going to be too taxing for you, especially in the line of what you do. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions.
Please.
Cool. So first of all, can you recommend a few apps, maybe 3 apps or browser extensions that you couldn't live without?
That's a great question. As far as like technology is concerned, something that I use religiously is MeisterTask. I've used a lot of different, I think it's called Workflowy, a lot of different ways to manage your time and all the hats, like we were saying, up to the ceiling. MeisterTask is one of the best I've found as far as managing your priorities. There's this whole concept of urgent and important. I believe Steve Covey wrote about this. And as entrepreneurs, we have a million things that are important, but we have very few things that are actually urgent. And so what MeisterTask does for me is it helps me distill and isolate the tasks that are both important and urgent from the ones that are just important, which is everything else. So that's probably one. I guess another tool that I'm using a lot right now is crypto, and that's a whole nother probably podcast in itself. But we're using crypto now creatively to raise money to grow businesses. And again, that's a whole nother rabbit hole to go down, because crypto is such a big animal. But I use a lot of crypto wallets, and I'm doing a lot of things to raise money that way.
Interesting.
But as far as like other tools, I'm looking at my browser right now. Probably the normal stuff everybody uses. I wouldn't say there's too many other tools that are like unheard of.
That's cool. Mike, was it Meister, did you say?
Yeah, MeisterTask.
Meister. Okay, I'm going to check that one out. I love task managers. It's one of the things I get excited about. So who else would be a great guest on this podcast?
That's a fantastic question. Potentially some of our clients, we have about 150 clients that we've joint ventured with, a product mentor at all stages, right? Some of them are just killing it, making a ton of sales out there. Other ones are just starting out. But I would say probably some of the ones that are more mature, further along, and I'm happy to provide those names to you, Steve, offline, and maybe you can kind of cherry pick, and maybe they could offer your audience some additional value in some of the areas that they've excelled at. So a giant Rolodex of partners that I could introduce to you.
Fantastic. I'll take you up on that offer. Yeah, no, I'm really keen to get some, maybe even people that aren't particularly offering a service directly to our audience, but more just hear the story of how they created a business that's successful. Because ultimately, this is all about systemizing your success. So yeah, whether it's a service or just a brilliant, inspiring success story, I think that'll be a great addition to the team, to the program. Okay, so this title, can't get my words out. The title of this podcast is Systemize Your Success. So what does success look like to you?
Success looks like to me, basically peace of mind. You know, when you wake up every morning, Steve, and everybody out there, what is the first thought on your mind every morning? Is it overwhelm? Is it stress? Is it a kid screaming? Is it your spouse telling you what to do? Right? Like, peace of mind is my definition of success. So if I can wake up and I can feel like I'm doing exactly what I want to do that day, you know, there's always going to be things that come at you. But like we mentioned earlier, when I got cut off, you kind of have to expect some level of stress so that it doesn't affect you in a negative way. But yeah, peace of mind is probably what I put the biggest value on, because you can have a really big, successful business and run adult daycare, as I like to call it, right? Trying to manage your staff. But if you're constantly in an agitated state and you can't give attention to your family, if you're lacking self-care, right? All that money and the success, it's just not worth it. And if you're not there yet, you might be thinking, whatever, Mike, whatever, Steve, when I have 7 figures liquid in my account, you know, it'll all be good. It actually isn't. More money doesn't give you peace of mind. You have to consciously design your life and design your business to give you that peace of mind. And that's why I want to learn more about your system, Steve, because again, my hats, you can't see them, but they do reach the ceiling right now. And that peace of mind is a daily challenge, right? There's never problems. We only have challenges. And so I can't wait to learn more about what you're up to, because I know it would benefit not only me, but everybody that I'm helping at Product Mentor too.
Yeah, fantastic. Great answer, by the way. So very last question, and you sort of actually touched on this already, but do you believe you can systemize your success, and why?
I do. And the reason I believe it is because I see people that have never started a business before, and they follow the system, they do things in the right order, and they get that desired result at the end. Just like I'm sure in your business, you see these crazy entrepreneurs, and once they start building their systems, you probably see their blood pressure go down and their stress level go down. But I see it happen every day. You know, we see our students, our mentees launching products almost every week now. And these are people that have a job, right? This starts as a side hustle for them. And they were blind without a cane when they started, but they had one thing going for them, Steve, and that is a little bit of faith, right? They were willing to put their ego aside and say, I don't know everything, but if I follow this system, I'm gonna get the result.
Cool. Brilliant last words there. Great. Thank you very much for today, Mike. It's been an absolute pleasure. Look, if people want to get hold of you, I'll obviously put these all in the show notes, but just tell people how they can find you and find out a bit more about you.
Absolutely, Steve. It was an absolute pleasure to do this with you. productmentor.com is our website. And you can learn more about a Done With You joint venture there. And check it out. If there's anything we can do to help, let us know. Like you mentioned, Steve, this isn't about pushing you or me, right? If our respective systems can help people, fantastic. If not, hopefully there was enough ancillary value today where everybody benefited and learned something. At least that's my hope.
No, absolutely. I mean, some absolute gold nuggets and stuff that I will definitely be implementing or using in our business as well. So no, thank you very much for your generosity today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. And as I say, links to contact Mike and to find out more about what he does and the wonderful things he's doing in the world of startups will all be in the show notes as usual. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for joining me and listening to this episode. I'm well aware there are hundreds of great business podcasts out there, and you chose to listen to this one, and for that I am truly grateful. Hopefully what you heard today took you one step closer to building a successful business so you can share your passion with the world and serve an ever-growing number of people. If you got value out of today's episode, then so will someone else that you know. By sharing with others what has helped you along your way, you will grow your influence and be the guy or girl that everybody wants to know. So please hit the share button right now, and also remember to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss future episodes. It's impossible for me to cover absolutely everything in these podcasts, so please do head over to systemiseyyoursuccess.com right now and download the show notes, transcriptions, and some of my best frameworks and systems for free. Thanks again for tuning in and being a part of this amazing community. Until next time, this is Dr. Steve Day, and you've been listening to Systemize Your Success.